Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Happy Valentine's Day. I appreciate your time. It means everything to me right now. What I'm about to deliver to you today is a love letter to the United States of America from a slightly different point of view. I love every one of you. It's what I have been commanded to do. I also love my country. An important life lesson I have learned over time and embraced in my 50 years on this earth is to not hate people. It's okay to hate what they do, but do not hate people because hearts can change. I have an important message to convey to you which will involve every American that cares for and loves our great nation of opportunity and freedom. Let me start by asking a question. Who is qualified to be the President of the United States? It's a question that is asked every election cycle, and there are different opinions and answers depending on who you ask. The Constitution lists only 3 qualifications for the presidency. The president must be at least 35 years of age, be a natural-born citizen, and have lived in the United States for at least 14 years. This is quite a simple answer when you consider some of the opinions we hear. How does a candidate get on the ballot? This is relatively straightforward as well. A candidate must fill out a candidacy form with the Federal Election Commission, establish a federally recognized super PAC, and then raise $5,000 in 20 different states. This is how the road to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue has started for every president in the modern era. With this speech, I hope to spark an interest in you which will lead me down that path. Our society has become angry and jaded over politics. We've all witnessed or have been a part of a conversation about where our country is at or where it's headed. And it's difficult when the interaction often devolves into name-calling and people being blatantly unfair to one another, all in the name of winning an argument or carrying water for a political party. I recently was employed at a brewery where the owners instituted a policy that prohibited political discussions at the bar. Is this real? Fellow Americans, in the lyrics of Jimmy Buffett, the moon is jumping over the cow. In the land of the free and the home of the brave, freedom of speech is banned at a brewery because divisive political talk too often leads to fights. It is a sad commentary and a testimony to just how toxic we have become. It starts from the top down. We have a former president who prided himself on being a counterpuncher. We have a current president who, when pressed by a reporter on inflation, said verbatim, "What a stupid son of a bitch," on a hot mic while seated behind the presidential seal. What we see in the cold world of social media, where complete strangers may interact, is disgusting and at times disturbing. I long to see the day when we collectively apply the template of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to our discussions. I long to see the day when two people, diametrically opposed, show respect and understanding even though they do not agree. Laws are the foundation of our civilized nation, and respect is the foundation of healthy interaction. We cannot legislate hate, but we can be an example of compassion and respect without sacrificing our convictions. We enjoy a concept in America expressed and cultivated by our founding fathers that I state like this: as long as you do not violate anyone's civil rights, you can say and do anything you wish. What a privilege. It is so inherent in our society and woven into the fabric of our nation that I think sometimes we take this right for granted. We shouldn't ever forget that true American patriots fought and died throughout our history for us to enjoy this right. I sincerely hope as a society we can get closer to these ideals. If we are all individually culpable for our behavior, there is no reason that we cannot start treating one another better and improve the attitude on our streets, in our communities, and in our online communities. It is my hope that a renewed sense of compassion, respect, and productivity will lead to a better America. This starts from the top. Today, at times, I'm going to make and talk about references to daylight. Daylight begins at dawn. When a day starts, the sun rises and provides a new opportunity for us to get it right. To shed light on a subject means to examine something closer, to illuminate the subject. When we shine light on something, we get rid of the dark and shady areas, and we begin to see the complete picture. Spiritually and symbolically, the image of blinding light accompanies the pure messages and messengers from our Creator. We can see, but without light, we are blind. Most politicians with agendas will set forth an exaggerated form of a problem, so that they can get you emotionally invested before offering their solution. Some have us convinced there is a deep, dark swamp in Washington, D.C. I'm here to tell you some bad news and some good news about the swamp. Let's begin by defining it. The swamp consists of a small group of people, either elected or appointed to govern and lead the country, that have somehow lost their way. Serving themselves before the people who elected them, they have lost our trust. They bend or break the rules to their advantage. The bad news is that the swamp exists. The good news is that the swamp is not as deep and not as dark as you think it is. The solution to the swamp resides in each and every American. Now is the time for all good men and women to come to the aid of their country. We need decent people to run for office. America needs you. If you have any interest in running for office and this message appeals to you, do it. Our solution in Washington rests primarily in stocking it with quality people who will avoid even the appearance of impropriety. Neither Washington nor our government needs a complete overhaul or to be drained. The reality is that all our nation needs is 537 honest, patriotically dedicated souls who are not money-driven, but purpose-driven. The solution can be achieved in just a few election cycles. All Washington needs is a little daylight to expose the weaknesses that may exist in the rules and laws, and a little daylight to shine on a few that would bend or break the rules to their advantage. The architects of our nation did an unbelievably great job of creating checks and balances. These checks and balances are the safeguard of our governmental system. The system can survive bad actors and bad decisions only because of these checks and balances. It is worth repeating. I believe that the solution, or daylight, must come from within the system in the form of honest, intelligent, well-intentioned people who will avoid even the appearance of impropriety. When I first contemplated running for the highest office in the land, the intuitive thrust of the campaign was focused on politicians coming into office with modest bank accounts and leaving office with obnoxious net worth. We are constantly reminded of this from disenchanted voters and pundits. I researched the subject, and I found that most of our representatives come from families with generational wealth. They are born wealthy, and they come to office wealthy. There is nothing wrong with that. They were duly elected by us, the people. Once upon a time, the American dream was explained to me in one simple sentence. Parents work hard, save, and sacrifice so that their children will have a better life than they did. It is patently un-American to hold honestly earned wealth against someone. We should evaluate a person by who they are, what they stand for, and how they function. We should not evaluate anyone based on the size of their bank account. Make no mistake, the swamp exists because unscrupulous people are in positions of power who either make or bend the rules to suit their needs. I'm just getting started here today, and I think this is a good time to tell you a bit more about who I am and where I come from. My name is Matthew Michael Gibbons, youngest son of Michael Augustine Pro Gibbons and C. Marilyn Gibbons. My parents both graduated from Charlevoix High School in Charlevoix, Michigan. My dad served in the U.S. Army before earning his bachelor's degree from Aquinas College. He then attended and graduated from Wayne State Law School, earning his Juris Doctor. My mom put my dad through law school as a medical transcriptionist at Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit. When us kids were old enough, my mom became the receptionist and secretary at my dad's law office in Charlevoix, Michigan. My father, now deceased, had a long resume of professional accomplishments, including serving the residents of Northern Michigan through his private practice, serving on the State Banking Commission, and as a city attorney in Charlevoix. I, too, graduated from Charlevoix High and attended Aquinas College. In 1998, I earned my bachelor's degree in English. As an Aquinas saint, I was a member of the track and field team. My events included the long jump, triple jump, 200-meter dash, and quarter mile. I qualified for the national track meet in 1993 as a member of the 4x400-meter relay. Since college, I have worked at 5 different law firms, serving as a legal assistant, case manager, and personnel manager. I passed a federal exam to be an EDPNA, or a non-attorney eligible for direct payment. This title means I am qualified to represent people in the Social Security Administration for disability claims. Painting houses through college, I have fallen back on that skilled trade at different times in my adult life. I moved to Savannah, Georgia in 2003 to pursue a professional golf career. I was in training to be a Class A PGA teaching professional at Bacon Park Golf Course and served as an assistant manager in golf retail at Edwin Watts Golf Shops. From November of 2021 to November of 2022, I worked at a brewery in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I worked on the brew team, bartended, and waited tables. My complete curriculum vitae is available at this campaign's digital home base, daylightintheswamp.org. My uncle, Colonel Gerald Gibbons, now deceased, retired from the U.S. Army after a long and distinguished career. In the military police community, Colonel Gibbons was both well-known and respected. Amongst his accomplishments, he served as an instructor at Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia. At one time, every military police officer in the Army was trained by Colonel Gerald Gibbons. Uncle Jerry also served as a provost marshal at Fort Hood. My uncle, Corporal Brian Neff, served in the U.S. Army for 3 years. Uncle Brian was trained in heavy equipment and tanks. He was also on the competitive rifle team and did a fine job with clerical duties. My uncle James Gibbons, MD, served 8 years in the U.S. Army. 2 of these were active duty and the other 6 were spent in the reserves. Uncle Jim was a surgeon, eventually the chief of surgery at Fort Meade. After finishing his military service, Uncle Jim was the chief of surgery in Flint, Michigan. Pat Gibbons, my brother, served honorably in the U.S. Army. He completed basic training at Fort Leonard Wood and completed his training with the Signal Corps at Fort Gordon. Pat spent the bulk of his time in service in Germany during the Cold War. So I've covered my immediate family's dedication to the military. I just want to touch a bit more on who my parents were. I think it's important that you know where I come from. My dad, who died in 1985 when I was 13, was an incredible human being. He was a relatively quiet man who practiced law and loved his wife and family. He was an honest man, rooted in his Catholic faith. I remember as a child being told by my mom that the 2 cords of firewood delivered in the driveway was from a client for his legal fees. In 1978, at age 40, he had chest pains and went to the emergency room. After evaluation, his doctor recommended he report to the U of M Medical Center to have a new procedure at the time, open heart surgery, performed. It was a successful operation, but the surgeon told my dad he had 5 years to live. He ended up getting 7. He died of a heart attack at the age of 47. In the last 7 years of his life, he made sure his boys knew how to work. I will never forget him telling me to, quote, police the yard. This involved picking up every single cigarette butt by hand. Early on Saturday mornings around 7 a.m., he would open our bedroom door and enter the room booming, "Daylight in the swamp." Being children and wanting to sleep in and not work, we would try to ignore him. He would then grab your ankle and tug on it saying, "Swamp, swamp, swamp." In hindsight, I can see his plan. Get his boys ready for life, for he would be gone. The foundation he gave us is a strong work ethic. There were times he would give you 6 or 7 things to do in verbal, rapid-fire form. He did this to help develop our minds. He was a great guy. My mom was also a very special person. She was a very principled person. She held us boys accountable, and as much as she was an effective disciplinarian, she unconditionally loved her 4 boys. Later in life, she was not very popular with everyone, primarily because she unabashedly told it the way it was. And some people were not prepared for that. I think just a bit of her rubbed off on me. Fellow Americans, I am here today, figuratively tugging at your ankle, and I'm telling you, it's time for daylight in the swamp. I don't know about you, but I want more transparency in Washington, especially when it comes to how our government spends our money. Our federal government at times seems to be of the money, by the money, and for the money. What happened to of the people, by the people, and for the people? The recent $1.7 trillion omnibus was passed in late December, and try as I might, I cannot find a line-by-line accounting of the approved allotments. This should be elementary. Our government generated a 4,126-page document detailing where all the money is headed, but it has not published a simple ledger with the figures and the description of where it went. An example of our government waste in action was reported in 2009 by CBS News. The United States allocated $6.6 billion to aid Pakistan in the war on terror. The money was earmarked specifically for their army. This was at a time when Pakistan was an instrumental force in the war on terror by virtue of its mountainous border they share with Afghanistan. Only $500 million of the $6.6 billion made its way to the agreed-upon destination, the Pakistani army, according to two Pakistani generals. The claim was corroborated by other retired and active generals, former bureaucrats, and government ministers. Only 13% of our money made it to where it was agreed to be spent. The United States Government Accountability Office report stated, for its part, Washington did not ask many questions of a leader, Musharraf, whom it considered an ally. Pentagon spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Mark Wright stated, we don't have a mechanism for tracking the money after we have given it to them. Is this how we want our resources handled? We need some common sense in Washington. In that same spending bill passed by Congress and signed by President Biden in late December, we are sending $200 million more to Pakistan, this time for gender equity programs. This is 10 times what we sent in 2020 for the same purpose. This may be a worthwhile cause, but my point is, were we the people asked? Were we asked what we wanted for any of the allocations that required 4,126 pages of explanation? Personally, I would rather we spend the $200 million to help our homeless. Homeless people are living in the woods in a Michigan winter right off the corner of Alger Street Southeast and Kalamazoo Avenue in the 49507 area code. We need a problem solver with common sense to lead this nation. Common sense tells me that the solution, or daylight, for this problem outlined above is to appoint a special accountant to every gift package to other countries. Hear me out. If the allotted funds exceed a certain amount, let's propose $5 million plus, let's take $100,000 off the top and hire a special accountant to be a federal employee for 1 year. It won't cost 1 extra cent to the taxpayer, and suddenly we will have much needed direct oversight and accountability. The special accountant's responsibility will be to work with the designated country's financial people to ensure that the funds are properly allocated and spent according to plan. Quarterly detailed reports from these special accountants to oversight committees would be appropriate. What I am establishing is that we need someone to lead this country who has real-world common sense and experiences, a person who knows what it's like to work a real job, a person who understands and appreciates the value of a dollar, a person who embraces and lives by the values of honesty and integrity, a person whose word is rock solid, a person who understands that the laws of our nation were written to protect the many from the few. Take our border, for example. Our border measures exist because some immigrants do not want to follow the laws. Laws are the foundation of every civilized nation. The United States of America has been the beacon of hope in the world since its birth and remains so to this day. Allow me to read Emma Lazarus' sonnet, The New Colossus, written on November 2nd, 1883, with the intention to raise funds for the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed, sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor, the twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my golden lamp beside the golden door. The Statue of Liberty is the iconic symbol of freedom and the United States. A gift from France, Lady Liberty welcomes weary souls to our great nation with a torch and a broken shackle and chain at her feet. A torch that sheds leading light from fire, a symbol of deep passion. and the broken shackle and chain, a commemoration to the end of slavery in our country. Allow me to shine some light on immigration and our border today. In theory and in practice, every law-abiding person that desires to immigrate to the United States should be welcomed with open arms. The only criteria for approval and entry should be based on criminal history and national security. The process to be welcomed into this country is not a light or quick process, nor should it be. Like candidates for office, immigrants must be vetted before being approved for entry. We have great technological resources and advancements over other eras to accomplish this goal, working in concert with the countries from where the immigrants originate. Regarding national security, we should know who every single person is that is on our soil at any given time. Is this possible? Probably not, but that doesn't mean we should stop trying. Our goal should be to never stop shooting for perfection in everything we do. If a person wants to become an American, check in. People should not just walk across our border only to live and work in the shadows. The daylight says good, upstanding people are welcome here. They also need to check in with the authorities the proper way. How do we accomplish this? Secure our border. It is accurate that there is some terrain that a wall simply cannot be erected upon. Does that mean we don't build the wall? No. Again, we shoot for perfection. As mentioned earlier, Congress just passed $1.7 trillion worth of spending. $20 billion seems to be the magic number to make great strides on the construction of the border wall. That's less than 2% of the $1.7 trillion. Let's make the United States secure. If we cannot take care of ourselves, it is a matter of time when we will not be able to take care of others who look to us for support and protection. Let's ask the Department of Homeland Security how much money and resources they need to be effective with the border and processing centers and get them the funds they require. Immigration is one of the hallmarks of our nation. At a young age, we are taught that America is the melting pot. E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many, one. It is how we were founded. Immigration necessitates that we must have a fluid, logistical approach to the impact of an increasing population. I believe it is possible and necessary. To people in the world seeking refuge and a better way of life, I say, come to the United States, just do it the right way. Switching gears, my most obvious weakness is that I do not have any experience in either politics or world affairs. It amazes me how quickly presidential candidates respond when they are asked questions of how they would handle specific issues, problems, or situations, both domestic and foreign. On the campaign trail, most will have binders full of organized topics that they have memorized, and they will outline from rote memory what seems to be a solid plan. There may be a shred of truth in their postulations, but when you get right down to it, the process to elect a president can become a dog and pony show. The reality of being president is that not even one situation should be handled unilaterally. This is where my personal strengths will be a unique asset. The president must be the ultimate delegator, listener, and synthesizer of information. The president has a responsibility to solve problems based on the wishes and will of the people. As your president, my decision-making process will always include input from my cabinet, staff, experts, and most importantly, you, the people. Now is the time for all good men and women to come to the aid of their country. We are a team that is represented by our flag of red, white, and blue. The information needed to make the best and proper decisions resides in the people who have devoted their lives to a specialty through education, devotion, and experience. I believe it is imperative for a candidate to have a certain level of intelligence and aptitude. After this, what sets apart a great leader from a politician is a solid moral compass with humility and integrity that will allow them to see clearly and make the best decisions even when the waters appear murky. Somewhere in history, the people of this country lost their voice. How many times have you felt, heard, or stated yourself, I have an opinion, but it doesn't really matter what I think? When is the last time you were asked by your House member or senator, what do you think and what do you want out of your government? When is the last time your representative held a town hall just to see what you think? One of my strengths as a leader is the ability to diagnose problems and then think outside the box to identify, create, and implement efficient solutions. When our country was founded, our population was approximately 2.5 million people. The 2021 census reveals that our population has grown to just shy of 332 million. It's a testament to the framers that our nation, now on its 247th year, is still a relatively well-oiled machine. When America's journey began in 1776, we were approximately 125 years away from having phones and 150 years from half of our homes having electricity. Times have certainly changed, and today, with a computer in everyone's pocket, it is time to embrace and utilize technology. The people have lost their voice, and I have a unique solution to this problem. Let's create an app for cell phones in use on our PCs and laptops and call it .gov. That's D-O-T-G-O-V. Hear me out. We employ the resources of our federal government to create and build this application by hiring the very best people in online technologies. Specifically, the brains behind Facebook, Twitter, and the IT people who developed encrypted, secure online banking applications. Every single registered voter in the United States will have their unique username and password, which will be tied to their legal name and voter registration number. This app will have two primary functions. The first function of the .gov app will be a brand new concept to give the voice back to the people. The second function of the app will solve arguably the largest problem we suffer from in all modern elections, election fraud. In the first function of the .gov app, there will be a bipartisan group in the House and/or Senate that will be responsible to generate questions based on current events and up to 5 detailed multiple-choice answers. A push notification will arrive in the .gov app. The question will be posed, and the voters will have 48 hours to research, discuss with family and friends, and cast their vote for the solution they would like implemented on their behalf. The results of these polls will not formally dictate policy, but it will serve as an indicator to Congress and all leadership in Washington where the will of the people stands. For example, if any given subject garners, say, a 75-25% result, I think it will be easier for Congress to understand and execute the will of the people. On the other hand, if the result of the poll came out to be 52-48, at least Congress is aware that there is basically a split decision to be decided. The second use of the .gov app, and I believe the most important, would solve all the problems and inconsistencies in our elections by overhauling our physical voting methods. The .gov app would be the place where all votes are cast. When we employ the same people who construct the digital infrastructure of security for online banking systems, we can all finally rest assured that the elections in our country will be fully legitimate, with the results both accurate, reliable, and timely. As it stands now, we have chaotic situations arising from an archaic system, such as volunteers leaving the building, only to return and count ballots at 3 a.m. In the last election, there were reports of truckloads of ballots being driven around the countryside. The current voting system is archaic and ridiculous at best. There is simply way too much latitude for foul play to exist. It is extremely frustrating when the solution to arguably the most important process in our country is and has been right under our noses. What exactly has our leadership been doing to drop the ball so blatantly on this one? Speaking of important topics, mental health is a very important one to me and to this country now more than ever. Mental illness is often the cause of violence, homelessness, and drug and alcohol abuse. Any person that would wield a gun and take innocent life is, by definition, mentally ill. People who need to be committed for insanity are done so on the basis that they pose a threat to themselves or others. It is my stance that there needs to be more resources dedicated to mental health research, treatment, and prevention, not only nationally, but globally. Organizations such as NAMI, or National Association for the Mentally Ill, should be expanded so that the people who need help may receive it. It is my belief that people who face their mental illness with humility and professional help eventually may be healed and become mentally strong. There are many people who have gone from being a patient to being a professional, earning degrees and using their life experiences and their education to help others who are facing similar challenges that they have overcome. The stigma that exists with mental illness must be defeated, and the battle we face as a nation against mental illness is a real and righteous one. I started this speech with the fact that love wins, and that is certainly the case with mental illness. Almost all patients that receive hospitalization for mental illness have been mistreated in some way, shape, or form. It is time for the federal government to earmark more resources in our battle against mental illness. I started out today by pointing out the basic qualifications to be a candidate for the President of the United States of America, and I will reiterate these basic criteria. One must be 35 years old and born on U.S. soil and reside here for 14 years. At this time, I would like to introduce a similar question, and that is, what makes a candidate fit for office? This is part of the vetting process. For me, in addition to one's intelligence and education, I want to evaluate a candidate's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health with equal weight applied to all these personal attributes. I wouldn't be standing here if I didn't think I was well-rounded and healthy. You have my word on this, but I want to do more to reassure you that I am indeed ready to lead. My plan is to release all my pertinent physical medical records and submit to a physical evaluation. In conjunction with the medical physical, I plan to be evaluated by a physical fitness expert. In addition, my plan is to schedule and be evaluated by a psychiatrist and/or a psychologist so that I may provide to you a professional opinion regarding my emotional and mental health. Lastly, I want to sit with a religious leader or leaders as well as spiritual leaders and let them weigh in on my spiritual health. In complete transparency, I will make all these medical reports available. I believe it is reasonable for a populace to be aware of their leader's overall health. A leader is in part only as good as their word and their health. My goal is to not just stand here and tell you I'm the right person for the job. My goal is to demonstrate that I am the right person for the job. So today is my hello world moment. This is not a pursuit or a job that can be accomplished without total commitment. I understand the gravity of running for President of the United States and the gravity of asking for your support. If I had said anything today that resonates with you, I encourage you to give me a chance. I am the very definition of a working man. I have some emergency funds in a savings account, which has served me well for the current circumstances of my life. If this movement is to gain traction and I am to go on the campaign trail, I need your financial support. For starters, I cannot afford to hire the experts and doctors for the aforementioned evaluations. I cannot hit the campaign trail without your help. If this movement in my campaign is to thrive and grow, it must happen now and on an organic and grassroots level. It is a sad commentary when we turn on the news and the report is that the national campaigns spend over $150 million in their Senate races. I ask, why does it always come down to money? I need votes. There are some things in life that money simply cannot buy, and these also happen to be the most important. I'm talking about honesty, integrity, loyalty, dependability, and work ethic. No one can purchase these virtues. These positive character traits are taught and handed down to us from our parents and elders. They are developed and acquired by making them the priority in our lives. Self-righteous politicians tend to be silver-tongued and say all the things we long to hear, only to disappoint us with empty promises. Self-righteousness is rooted in excess ego, whereas righteousness is rooted in humility and faith. Always being honest by virtue of the spirit of truth, I have spent my own hard-earned money to stand where I am and deliver this message to you. The money to get just this far came out of my savings. This campaign is right where I want it, in the hands of you, the people. The heartbeat of this movement really is up to you now. If there is no traction or donations, the daylight that is so desperately needed in Washington will likely dissipate. And if this happens, I don't ever want to hear, ever again, about how people are upset with the system or the people they elected. Here's something you won't hear from politicians, but you will from me. As your candidate, I will refrain from making promises. Promises in the political world have paved the road of disappointment. Instead of promises, I will have goals. We will have goals. Working to achieve these goals, I believe, will be fulfilling and productive experience. An experience that will be focused on results, not lip service and kicking the can down that road of disappointment. This is your chance. This is our chance. This might be our only chance. A true educated working man is standing before you, epitomizing the ideals and values we cherish as Americans. I'm taking my one shot, just like the ultimate underdog, Rocky Balboa. If you like what you have heard today and you would like to see more of it, please go to daylightintheswamp.org and fund this campaign. Let's do this, people. Let's bring back dignity to the White House. Let's bring back truth to the White House. Let's bring back respect to the White House. Most importantly, let's bring back accountability to the White House. Let the people's voice be heard once again. If you elect me to be the 47th President of the United States, we can begin cleaning this mess up. If you vote for me, you'll be voting for the voice and the will of the people to be returned to Washington, D.C. by virtue of Daylight in the Swamp. The last segment of my delivery might be the most important. We owe a debt of gratitude that I cannot properly put into words to our United States military. With the way the world is and has been to this point in history, we would not have a country if not for the safety and protection provided from our men and women in uniform. Thank you to all active and retired military personnel. If elected, I, Matthew Michael Gibbons, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. Please join me in a moment of silent prayer of safety and gratitude for our United States military. When you visit our home base in cyberspace, daylightintheswamp.org, you will see a tab labeled Fitness. Physical fitness, as well as mental fitness, is very important to me so that I may enjoy a decent quality of life while I'm here and function the way that you will need me to. I do push-ups nightly in honor of our military. Dedications to soldiers help me to complete my sets. I plan on having push-ups be a part of the message on the campaign trail. Thank you, military. These are for you. Do I hear 47? All right, let's do 47. That is some high quality H2O. Seriously, stay tuned, everyone. I have an answer for China, Russia, and every other country with a track record of human rights abuses. It is time for Daylight in the Swamp. Go in peace, love, and truth.